All right, what's going on, Macro Perspective peeps? Man, I'm super just grateful to be here with Marcos and Mike Bledsoe. That's right, Mike Bledsoe, guys. We're having him as guest for round two. Episode 28 was the last time we had him on, so it's been over 2 years. At that time, Mike was running the Strong Coaches Network, and I was kind of like jumping into that and just seeing some things. But Mike's, been in and out of my feed, and I saw him recently on the Modern Man podcast, and that was such a cool little thing. I was like, we got to get him in for a round two, because the things, Mike, you're getting into now are like a person's like sovereignty, going beyond just business, but more into like emotional health and having not just one awakening in life, but multiple awakenings. And it's more about like making sure you have limitless growth, impact, and you've done everything. The reason we love having you on last time was like, I told Marcos, like growing up in college, like listening to Barbell Shrugged, the Barbell Collective, and all those things, and just just seeing how you've done everything has just been awesome. But yeah, man, how have you been? What's been the focus lately? And we could just dive into that.
Man, yeah. Since last time we talked, I actually shut down the Strong Coach, and I kind of got tired of talking just about money and helping coaches make more money. And there's just so much. I remember when I started the Strong Coach, there was only one or two other programs out there that were helping coaches build their business. And then over time, the claims from people about what you could expect after doing their program became so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, I really don't like playing this game of making crazy promises. And so, and I saw, the market's changed quite a bit in like the high ticket coaching industry. And that's been some conversations I've had with a lot of other people. And, it was a really good program. And there were aspects of it that were like, when I talk to people, I still talk to people that had been through the program and that were part of the community, and they share how it changed their life. But almost never was it like, yeah, you helped me get to make $10,000 months. And then, it was all about the money. It was all these personal development pieces that they were able to point at. And that's one reason I stepped back and I took a breath and did some other projects. And I've been consulting a lot of businesses and individuals, one-on-one in order to help grow their businesses. And actually spent a good amount of time in working with military veterans with and without psychedelic medicine to help them move through a lot of emotional, we'll call them boo-boos. And so really been spending, getting really, really deep and intentional in my own personal development. It started in 2013, but I started going really deep in 2016. And, as it takes about 7 to 10 years to really master something. So where I'm at right now is I feel like I've spent enough time in the psychological and emotional development field to where I'd like to create, and I am creating something called Full Stack, which is really integrating health, wellness, and the mental and emotional aspects of development. And I've got enough of the tools now to where I feel it's no longer working one-on-one or just with a few people at one time, but I now have enough knowledge to share one to many. And so that's really part of the impetus for Full Stack, where I go, okay, I could put 10,000 people in this and I can put together a very specific path that we can create predictable awakenings for people with these processes. So that's a bit of what I've been up to the last few years.
Why Full Stack? What resonated you with the name to create that?
I've actually worked in and consulted a bit in the tech side of things. I don't know if you're familiar with what a full stack developer is. And every time I've heard the phrase, I just like, man, it just sounds so fucking cool. And I have several friends that are full stack developers, and I played around with the name for a while and looked at a lot of different things. And I was sitting on the couch with my wife and we were playing around with different names, and she said Full Stack out of nowhere. And she's not really from that world. And I go, okay. And what I was looking for with that name, because anyone here, if you're a developer, you hear full stack, you're going to think one thing. But if you're not, you hear full stack and you go, and I just ask people, when you hear full stack, what comes to mind? And I go, yeah, that you're like every area of your life, you're able to, you've got a good handle on it, or, you're optimized in multiple domains. And I really wanted to have that feeling of being optimized in all the domains of life. And I also wanted something that sounded masculine in nature.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of personal development programs. There's a lot of spiritual programs and teachers out there. And all of it sounds really fluffy and a bit airy and feminine. Even when men are leading it, something about it doesn't feel grounded. And I really want to put out a brand that when people engage with it, they go, oh, okay, this is like a very grounded masculine feel. And we're talking about things that are a bit softer in nature at the same time.
Yeah, because I'm like full stack software and then living. And then I'm like, hold on, the quick Google search. What does it actually refer to? Because like you said, it's like you've heard it many a times, but what does it actually mean? And then the front end and the back end. So like I guess they're full approach of living this life. And like you said, the raw nature of it being maybe more masculine in the sound. It is funny when you do say full stack, I do think of some nerdy dude probably just chipping away in his basement, just grinding. So I guess if that was what the aura you were hoping to envision there, it definitely hit pretty immediately for me.
The other thing is like one of the things that have come up, I do a lot of writing, is I come up with stack, don't hack. So in a world,
like that. That's a good one.
And yeah, in a world of people trying to hack, their biology, or hack this system or hack that system, where it's like when I hear hack, I think shortcut. And a lot of people, I've been to some biohacking conferences, and I walk away, I'm like, man, it just feels like a lot of people are looking for shortcuts.
Yeah.
But
stacking feels like you're adding depth.
Right. Yeah. And so there's a bit of that too. When I'm on, because we launched the Full Stack podcast a few weeks ago.
Ooh,
and thank you. That's one of the things that my co-host and I keep coming back to is, yeah, you want to stack this and stack that and stack that. Like my morning routine is a stack.
Yeah.
If you're doing a nootropic stack, you're stacking things. It's like one nootropic ingredient is great, but if you combine 5, now you have a stack.
Now you got a stack. Dude, this is good. Dang. Gotta steal that one, Marco. Stack, don't hack. Yeah, I saw that you started the pod, and it looks like there's like already like a few episodes left. It looked like you had a great guest, like one guest that was a coach to billionaires. I was like, oh, I'm gonna put that on the save later. I want to ask you, you want to go back to Full Stack, like the methodology, the one to many, 10,000 people you said was kind of like the goal, right? You said something there along the lines of predictive awakenings.
Yes.
Obviously, awakenings for people can sometimes come out of nowhere, right? Where they didn't necessarily work on it. It just kind of hit them in the face. Maybe it was like a life event. It was thrust upon them, or they did work to it because they were like struggling with something and they had to break through a threshold, and they've been working on it for months or years or whatever. Maybe they go to therapy, or they did like some psychedelic assisted things like psilocybin. How are you making it predictive? I know without giving away the secret sauce, they got to be in the program, they got to be in the school community. But how did you create the logic tree of like, if this then that, like the algorithms in your head of like, oh, this is gonna take someone from A, B, C all the way to Z of the full stack?
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways. Mine was a surprise. My first awakening was a bit of a surprise. And after that, I became much more intentional about what I was seeking. And then after a few years, I realized that, I ran into people who were able to create predictable paths of awakening. And, there are programs like Landmark Forum. Have you heard of that? No. Yeah, it's a leadership development program. It's not everybody's cup of tea. Actually, I don't think I've ever any personal development program that's truly effective and goes deep is going to turn a lot of people off because it's going to be confronting. And so I remember sitting in a Landmark education in their first course called the Landmark Forum. It's a weekend, and I had already had 2-3 awakenings before I got to that. And what blew me away was how systematic they were in their methodology, and were able to, over a few days, to bring everybody to this one moment where it was like, oh shit, everyone in the room had felt this shift simultaneously. And so much of the curriculum, they were reading. They were reading. 120 people in the room. They're at a podium and they've got a book and they're reading, and then they're coaching on the fly too. So there's a little bit of both. Y'all done CrossFit level 1 certs?
Yeah.
Dude, it's all scripted, 100% scripted, right? Like I've been to 3. That's why I know.
It is and it isn't. That's part of the art too, because my buddy Zach has been seminar staff for a decade, longer. I don't even know. And it's like he would always say, and I always found this interesting. He's like, he's getting graded by whoever like the flow master was. So you have to make sure you say the right things relating to the methodology in the right order, but it's not exactly like you have to say it, quote, the exact way, if that makes sense, right?
Yes.
Like, yeah. So he'd always say, he's like, yeah, I'm getting graded right now. And I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? I was like, dude, he's like, no. It's like when you're flow master, you get to call the shots and correct people like on staff. But like right now I'm getting corrected.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I've been to 3 of those, and then I realized how scripted it was. There's like half of it's scripted and then half of it is your own flavor, right? And so that's one thing I noticed at Landmark, and they really reminded me of each other. And they're both an indoctrination process. You're being indoctrinated into a new perspective. CrossFit, you're being indoctrinated into a specific perspective on what fitness is. In Landmark, you're being indoctrinated into a perspective on how to view the world and yourself in a way that's more empowering. And then I also engaged in other programs and leadership development programs and with coaches. And I just noticed that there was all these different types of programs that all had predictive ways of creating awakening. Now, depending on the person, it's going to vary on the depth of that awakening or what exactly they're waking up to. But you can, like, I used to hold these 5-day retreats with this woman, and I'd gone through her program and then decided I wanted to help her reach more people. And so I was basically an assistant coach in the space for about 2 years. We do a 5.5-day retreat every 2 months. And there were multiple awakenings that were happening in that 5-day retreat for people. Some people, on day 2, they would break and have their big aha, and we'd be working with 6 people at a time. And then some people would be like day 4 or 5, there was a high level of resistance, but we were able to lock people in a room day after day after day, and then get through whatever resistance was there. And then they have their major insight. And so I've witnessed it. I've been a part of it. And then going into the psychedelic field quite a bit, there's ways of priming people and getting them prepared, and then, introduce a substance that amplifies their consciousness. And then whatever it is we were working on bubbles up, and then they have their big insight. And there's no way for the facilitator to know exactly what they're going to get, like what's the end insight they're going to receive, but we kind of have an idea of like the theme. We know the theme of it. And that's really what I'm doing with Full Stack is there's one of the things that I'm wrestling with right now is I can take people down a dozen different paths to provide a dozen different themes of awakening. Which one do I lead with? And so I know, Seamus, you got in the community, and there's some, it's pretty light in there right now as far as how we're doing it. And it's really putting the feelers out in the community and seeing where they're gravitating towards. I've been writing a blog all year. I've been sending emails. I can see which emails are being opened based on which subject lines I'm looking at. Once they open the emails, how many people are clicking through? Okay, they're interested in this topic. And because they're interested in this topic, I can now create a process that's going to lead them to something that expands their perspective. And I say expand because so many people use the word change perspective. I don't think we ever change our perspectives. We just expand them because we don't forget the perspective that we held previously. It's still a part of how we view the world. And so for me, it's like how do we expand our perspectives and consider more?
Yeah. Real quick, if we can just define a few things like awakening and kind of like what, for people coming to you, like what are they awakening? What are they trying to, like you're talking about a perspective, but is it like because they're in a pain point, they're struggling in their business, or like they're struggling with emotional stuff, are they like trying to awaken, like are they trying to awaken all of it? Like what is what is awakening overall?
You know, it's really funny because I remember when I first got into the work, and if you would come out and talk about awakening, people would go, "What the hell are you talking about?" And now if I go around in the school platform and you look at all these different programs, you can click on the spirituality category, and it's awaken this and awaken that. And there's a personal development coach here in town who I went and spoke at one of his masterminds this summer. But his primary entry level seminar is Awaken, is the name of it. And so I think that a lot of people, they are seeking that word appeals to them because they have a sense that the world has become very unstable, and they know that there's something deeper, that they have this feeling that something's not quite right, and something's not quite right with the world. Something's not quite with how I'm understanding the world, and I require to expand my perspective rapidly. And that would be an awakening. They don't use expand perspective, they use the word awaken. And I think people feel like they're getting left behind in a lot of ways, and they know deep down that there's something to expand into. And I think the word awaken really appeals to people because it kind of points to remembering something that's been lost versus coming to something new in a way. And I think that people feel as though they've lost something, and that makes total sense. No, our culture is incredibly fragmented. There was a time where if you go to a country, there was like a really solid culture. There was an agreement that we all behave in this certain way. There was a level of trust that was happening in the culture, and that's become incredibly fragmented. Like when we look at U.S. history as an example, depending on who you ask, they're going to say the America was founded on X, Y, or Z. Rewind 100 years ago, everyone was pretty much in agreement what America was about. But now you may ask one person and they say America was founded on, principles of freedom. And then someone else says it was founded on slavery. And so you have these two very opposing perspectives. And so that's the fragmentation of culture. And so they want that's the thing, that they feel like something's not quite right. And then on top of that, we have, advancements in technology that are moving so fast that there's no way to wrap our heads around it and make meaning of it. And so people are looking for a way to make meaning of their life and meaning of the world.
Ain't that the truth? It's never been a more divisive time. It's never been a more, at the recording of this, right? Government's still shut down, I believe, right?
They're still taking money out of your
I know.
paycheck. They're not shut down.
Well, jokes on them. One of them is one of them. I'm a contractor. You know what I mean? I pay taxes at the end of the year, like a good Samaritan.
Yeah.
And yeah, like you mentioned the fragmentation, the beliefs, and you're right. Like if you were to ask people that'd be like, what you got me thinking of here, Mike, is that yearly journal where it's the same prompt every year, but you have a different perspective because like where you're at is just so different at the time,
Yeah.
right? And part of our like macro perspective documentation over the last however many years is like, not like you just said, how we're expanding our perspectives on different topics in a broad lens, because that's part of like just being growth minded is like, man, I remember when I thought of it this way and how wrong I was. And to expand upon that, it's not that you are like that perspective was bad at the time and maybe served you, but then it's obviously led to some changes. I was like, why should I care about politics when I'm a 22-year-old? Like I'm still in college at the time, right? Like what the fuck do I know? And then now it's like at 32, I was like, oh, I guess I am a fucking adult now. I probably should care a bit more about these things. And I
realized I was an adult when I hit 40, so you're doing good.
Like you already served on multiple tours or anything like that? No.
No, well, no. So Seamus, I was at my BNI meeting this morning, and you're in a room with 50 people in different landscapes of life, doing different things, but all with the common goal, like you said, like we need to make enough money to like be satisfied with like what we can, again, to like our basic necessities. Then I'm sitting there and I was like, this guy's talking about a story from when he first joined this BNI chapter 25 years ago, because he's been there for 25 years in like a month. And I was like, what? Like, where was I 25 years ago? I was 7 years old. That was my son's age. I wasn't even like, I've been going through all these things. And then I got to thinking, I was like, I'm in a room with adults. I'm a fucking adult. Like it was a realization moment where I was like, these people would turn to me to help them with their health and fitness goals. And like you said, Mike, it's like, it probably would be another 10 years where I'm like, I'm over this. I want to move to like the next thing. And like you said, like the advancement of like AI and all these new tools, it's like, I can't even keep up. So like, why even bother? You know, I guess like as soon as like Google figures out the way for it to just be like commingled and coalesced with like the normal Google search that a millennial grew up with, then I'll start using it a bit more. But it's insane how your perspective expands and shifts as these new things come in, for sure.
Yeah.
I agree, dude. I think it's like purpose, meaning, values. Like I feel like they're just been fragmented. Like I get it here a lot. I live in LA, Mike, and LA is just a smorgasbord of different dissenting views. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I've spent some time there. Yeah, I know.
And it was funny because I'm I'm online, but I try not to. I talked to my brother about this, about like not feeding my loop to be that like opposing views of like people just getting argumentative and getting addicted to that like level of like what's going on here, what's this commotion, what's this stress about. But I did wear like a red, white, and blue hat the other day. But my like one of my first thoughts was like, you know what's interesting is wearing a red, white, and blue hat. I'm a proud American. For some reason, there's some people that hate the fact that you're an American, but they're an American too. And if you wear red, white, and blue, it's like you're identified as something like, and I'm like, damn, that's such a weird thought to have. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's so odd that like in your own space, you're kind of like, what the fuck? Like, it was such a weird
You
thought that,
wore a MAGA hat in LA, didn't you, you son of a bitch? You can't be doing that.
yo, even if I did, why am I gonna get fucking stones thrown at me? You know?
Because people like to hold their viewpoints as, what is it, like that's their value, right? That's like our conversation with Jim, man. Like they value their opinions so much that they have to expel it upon you, where it's like, I would just like to, just have conversation. I think we've gone away from that, just genuine like curiosity of like, well, why do you think that way? And as soon as they have like an assumption of you, like reading, they think of like don't judge a book by its cover kind of like scenario. And I feel like everybody's just judging immediately. You don't know that person from Adam, right? Like it sucks that that's like where we're in, at this day and age. But I'm trying to be better about that too, about like my preconceived like visceral like thought. It's like, why is the guy doing it that way? You know what I mean? Like I'm like, wait a minute, no, maybe they just weren't taught something else. Or I saw someone Chamish appreciate this. Like these people we've been working out with, like friendly with in the gym 3 years plus, whatever. She's doing wall balls. They're like, yeah, we got roped into doing high rocks. And I was like, they're like, we saw you and your buddy training for it last year. So we decided to sign up for it this year. I was like, they're like, you signing up? I was like, fuck no, I don't want to do it again. And so she's doing wall balls today. And I was like, my CrossFit, background, I was like, oh, I want to go fix her form so bad. But then I was like, wait a minute, maybe she doesn't want her form to be fixed. Maybe I don't need to put my opinion here.
Yeah, I think, well, a couple things on that is part of the work that I've been in the last few years, I've gotten really deep in, is tracking where I have an emotional charge. And if I have an emotional charge about something, that there's work to be done there, because and over the last few years, my emotional charge around things has gone way down. Somebody's doing something that used to make me angry, I just don't even, it doesn't bother me at all. I may be curious, I may meet them with curiosity about it. Doesn't mean I'm going to be totally disengaged, but or when it comes to politics specifically, like legitimately disinterested. Like I can I can see the illusion of like, oh, this person's angry because whatever. So like one piece of this is really tracking where there's an emotional charge, and then tracking down what about me is charged about that, and then unwinding that. Yeah. And so we've all met people who are just so chill about things when everyone else is like spun up about it. Well, you can cultivate that and do that on purpose. It's not like, and it doesn't mean you have to be passive. In fact, you can still insert yourself and speak truth in a way that lands for everybody. And that's basically the measure of like when truth is being spoken, is when nobody can disagree. When everyone feels it and goes, okay. Mm-hmm. So when there's disagreement, automatically in the field, I go, it's not truth. And so so that's one piece. And the other piece is I think that a lot of people are getting so like around politics specifically, it's really fascinating to me about how charged up people have gotten about it. And what I've come to realize is it's such a charged topic because people are so afraid of being oppressed.
Mm-hmm.
So if the red team wins, if you're on the blue team and the red team wins, you're going to be oppressed. And if the blue team wins and you're on the red team, you're going to be oppressed. That's the perception, is they're going to oppress me. And it works on both sides. That's at the bottom. That's at the core of it. And there's this fear that I'm not going to have access to my values, which is what you were getting at before, which is I value this if they get in charge. And that's really just due to a breakdown in governance. So our governance model no longer fits. And the founding fathers predicted this. They basically said that, if you study political science, it's basically every republic is going to devolve into a democracy, and then it's going to turn into a mob rule. And then it's actually not, there are no equal rights. People don't believe in equal rights anymore. And so it's all about getting one up over on the other person. And so if your team loses, the stakes are really high. So it makes sense to me why people are so emotional about it, because, if you value, XYZ and this other team wins and I don't have my values anymore, they're going to force me to go along with a different set of values.
Yeah. It's weird though too, how seemingly the things that people will value will never affect their actual lives. Like, that's just my opinion. It seemingly is like they're so worried about like the world view of said value or said set of things that they miss like taking care of their own full stack, kind of full circling moment. This, like, you know what I mean?
They're like in arm's reach community, if that makes sense.
Yes, they're so worried about the global macro scale of things, i.e. the whole idea behind our podcast, right, is to touch on a little bit of everything. But like at the same time, it's to hopefully resonate with that kind of internal view of self so that you can make the world a better place if you just focus on your local community. I mean, Mike's community might have more reach because he's like 10,000 people on this virtual digital community because you've done a good job of figuring out how to do that. Whereas like for me, I'm like, I'm born and raised in Las Vegas, and a lot of shit I do is just here locally. Like, I have some people that are kind of over, across the US and maybe 2 people internationally, but like, my reach may not ever be that big, but where you want to like do things for yourself versus that is wild. And yeah, same thing. I like that I am so in the middle with it that I can kind of care less, but it's just fascinating to watch. Like, I'm like, was I just turning a blind eye because I didn't have the TV station turned in on it? Or is it that it seems like there's an election happening every year and it's seemingly that the stakes are so high for whichever place, and it's always like, insert, this is the first whatever woman to run for office on this formerly red state that is now turned blue for this particular county. And I was like, okay, like why is it because you get like the first claim to be that thing that it matters so much? I think the propaganda and the media and the stories that come with it and the attention to eyeballs, and also like what you're saying, Mike, you're like, people become so fascinated with the data that like, okay, this many people tuned in, this many people clicked through, this is the actual topic we need to focus on. And so we just get continuously bombarded with this shenanigans and this like, seemingly nothing that actually matters.
Yeah, I think a lot of this started with with atheism becoming very popular. And so before atheism became so popular, the government was not the authority. God was the authority, and government was this thing that happened to help maintain order. And so what I find amongst and I'm somebody who is atheist at one point, so it's not like I don't understand the perspective, but and I wasn't like a hardcore advocate for it or anything like that. I was just kind of like, yeah, I don't really believe in anything I can't touch, feel, and see, doesn't make any sense to me. And I think a lot of that was just fear of like being looked at as being wrong to believe in something that not everybody would agree on. But and in the scientific community, it was really popular for a long time to be atheist. And so when one thing I noticed with humans is if they're religious, and if they're spiritual, I'll put religion aside, but religion was like spirituality for a long time. And people saw the government as just this thing that maintained order, but there was a greater authority. And then when that greater authority doesn't exist anymore, the government becomes the authority. It's like the next stage. And so people start giving government authority, and then they look at people in white lab coats. Doctors have authority. And so there's this disconnection from access to authority in ourselves. When politicians, when you have a favorite politician and they get up and say you should be afraid about the other person, if you listen to the language they're using, holy shit, it's a lot of fear mongering. But if you think that the authority resides in the government, then your team's not going to get elected in, that's a lot of fear. Because there is no authority beyond that. And so that's part of the work that I do, is realizing that you are the authority.
Yeah. No one's coming to save you. No one's going to do the work for you, right?
Yeah.
Like, no one's coming to save you.
You're the authority. And if you really become intimate with the fact that you are the authority of your life, then all that other stuff just gets really quiet. It's not a big deal. I can scroll through Instagram. I see crazy stuff going on, and I'm like, feel pretty sad for people who buy into that.
Yeah.
But I don't stay sad very long, because it's kind of like poor them. They're also a sovereign being having an experience. It's their right to get all wound up and upset. But if they ever want to have a conversation about doing it differently, I'm available.
I live in a very peculiar time. I think you're right, though. There has been more, I guess this generation, the younger generation, is having a deeper turnout to ties to some sort of religion, some greater purpose, some higher being, probably as a result of our generation kind of being, like you said, more atheist in a sense, right? Or agnostic. Maybe it's just like you might believe in something, but you don't want to follow one particular sect of religion, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I find it fascinating. I still can't personally find that like tied to it, but maybe it's because I don't want to be judged, like you said. I don't know. Or maybe I like the fact that I don't judge myself and I don't think I need it. So I don't know. Maybe
Not everyone like us is enlightened like you, Marcos.
It's not even an enlightenment thing. I don't plan to know things, but I'm like, the teachings of Christ could be, well said, and it could have been a collection of multiple people's ideas. Maybe every book that was actually in the Bible was, I don't know, they used Jesus or whatever as just a foil, right? Or some sort of character or some sort of entity and being to allow for something to happen. Cool, right? Like, but I also look at how the world is on a global scale being impacted by views of your particular beliefs, right?
Yeah.
Whether it's belief in politics or belief in religion.
Do you feel like you still have spirituality with disregarding religion, though? Like disregarding a specific religion like Christianity? Like, would you say you have spirituality?
Me or Mike?
You, Marcos.
I don't know. Sometimes you turn some things to blind faith, but I don't really know if it's like a spiritual, like I don't think there's like some golden glades unlock at the end of this and that's the end of it. But I think that
I don't think it has to be that either. Just spirituality that, like, I think you do have it because you're super wise, but like that we're connected, not necessarily by like a cosmic being like God or Christianity or like a Buddhist kind of thing, but like a spirituality, like maybe you feel like there's more, right? Or
well, there's maybe been some epiphany or awakening moments with some entheogenic like property principle items that have given me some deeper thought and just being in awe of the experience of, like, again, watching this movie with my kids, and it's like I have these two little beings that are just absorbing this and they have no fucking attention for this movie, but I am laughing so hard at the fact that this movie is like hitting my childhood core. But they'll remember the fact that we went to the movie and that'll be enough for them. And I'm crying over the fact that I'm getting fucking old because of this movie.
Okay, there is a soul in there, but like we don't have to frame it from a religious standpoint or anything like that.
What you guys are, what it sounds like you're talking about is the story of religion or story of spirituality. Like, oh, there's some pearly gates at the end, or like what I'm hearing is references to the story, like the stories that have been told about spirituality.
Yeah.
Instead of the having the experience of touching that thing, that sacred piece of ourselves that is undeniable in that moment. You go, okay, there is there's something much deeper going on beneath the surface than I had ever imagined before. And in my experience, the deeper that I've gone, the more of those stories mean less. And having more of a direct experience of, we call it awareness, is something where I go, the things that used to seem mystical or magical become obvious over time. And there's no way for me to tell you something that is necessarily going to get you there. I could take you through a process that would get you there. But do I believe in the story of the Bible that was put together by the Catholic Church, yada, yada, yada? Not necessarily. But if you go and look at, and I don't associate with any particular religion, but if you look at the teachings of Jesus and you get down to like the core teachings of Jesus and you just read what he said, it all makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
None of that is a bad way to live. Every bit of it is a good way to live.
Yeah.
And
teaching you the awareness, experiencing that like deeper awareness that you're talking about, that deeper state, and getting into there.
And I think for me, it was like, to be a dead horse here, but I feel like you said a lot of people that will go and quote scripture as though that's the thing and the way that you then need to live makes me feel as though those people haven't actually experienced anything in life.
They've abdicated the responsibility of that. They've sidestepped it.
It just doesn't feel authentic. It's like, oh, I'm gonna quote. That's like give me something that's relatable to that story in a sense, and like have a good reason to want to do that versus like just say that thing out of context because you think it fits my story. I'd rather. I would much rather.
Trust me, that always bothers me too.
I'm just like, yo, I don't need to know 1 Corinthians 2:8 or whatever it is that you're going to quote at me. Like that doesn't really mean anything to me. It's like you can just say that the Bible said something, but this is how it impacted me, and then cool. Like to me, that's a more relatable thing because that's like modern. Your interpretation. Yeah, your interpretation of those things matter a hell of a lot more to me, the individual, in 2025 than, when the first teachings were done. And again, the idea behind evolving and understanding people deeper, I think all of our views as coaches that have understand personalities and people feeling lost with things, like, we want to attach ourselves to, a client said it today. She's like, I don't want to start Monday. And I was like, good, don't start fucking tomorrow. But like, that's fine. Like, so I don't want to be cliche. I was like, cool. Guess what I don't do? Like I go, anything that's a cliche, I do the exact opposite. Cause I feel like that's my cliche and I'm cool with it. People think like Monday starts your workout weeks. I don't fucking work out on Monday. It's not worth it to me.
I work out
Sunday. That's my dad, dude. My dad started that. He's like, Sunday starts my week because no one can fucking bother me. It's the best time to get to the gym. I can be here as long as I want, hit the back rooms, do all this stuff. And so thanks, Dad. Your infinite wisdom lives on. As I was like, go instill that into my daughter today. Go take her to Ninja, so we can have a podcast.
I want to ask you, Mike, now I kind of want to change it here a little bit. I know we've talked about politics, religion, spirituality.
We covered the no topics already. You're not supposed to talk about those things.
There's one topic we touched a little bit. Marcos touched a little bit. He brought up kids in this environment, but you bringing it back to full stack meaning like stacking all the different aspects of life, whether that be like your financial freedom, your spiritual freedom, your emotional freedom, your family freedom, whatever it is, all those different skill sets that you can create as like a video game skill tree or whatever, right? I know you did a video of this. It just dropped like an hour or two ago. But I haven't had a chance to look at it, but like artificial intelligence, you said something along the lines of earlier, hey, things are a hack. You're trying to get a shortcut. And I saw the title. It said something around the rounds of like AI is making people a little bit dumber or a little bit less intuitive or less of themselves. What are some of your thoughts on artificial intelligence? Because that technology is here. It is present. I think you touched on it last time we were on the conversation, but that was just like the first month of like ChatGPT being in public. So
yeah, maybe it has been 2 years then, because it's been around 2 years, I think.
When we first started, we'll have the podcast officially 3 years in December, and that was like right as people were cheating on their essays for college.
Yeah.
So you brought it up a bit. What are you, having played with it for 3 years and talking about sovereignty, talking about full stack, talking about this idea of not hacking your way through life? Like, where are you with that nowadays, and what are your thoughts there?
That clip was taken from a larger context of a conversation in a podcast, and the way most people that use social media, all technology, basically they're being used by it in a way. If you're using AI as like a glorified Google or just asking it to do things for you, it's really, you're going to think less. You're outsourcing your thinking.
Yeah.
And so you're going to become cognitively weak by using it as a crutch for everything. And so it's something I've really watched myself, because I use it every day. But I see there's two ways you can use it. You can use it in a way where you're handing over and outsourcing thought processes, or you can use it as a partner to help poke holes in your own ideas. So, for instance, this is how I write,
That's some awesome cursive for those that are not like looking right now. This is like good cursive, something I can read, and it's on lawyer paper. Like it's actually real. Like it's real. Holy shit.
Yeah. So I've even gotten away from typing the written word, and I've gotten into writing it by hand.
Damn.
And it really, it's been, having gotten away from that and doing everything in word processors, I found that when I'm typing, I'm editing as I go. And that's like one of the rules in writing is you write and then you edit. But these word processors have gotten so intelligent that that's making suggestions to improve the grammar or to, catching a spelling thing. And I find myself getting 2 or 3 sentences in and then going to correct something. And it's really, even though my typing is faster than my writing, and that's one reason that I was drawn to it in the first place, is it could keep up with my thoughts. I've recently accepted that it's better for me to slow down and really get my thoughts down on paper. I spend an hour most mornings, write for at least an hour. Last week I did a lot of writing. I was writing 3 or 4 hours a day. And I was really getting and refusing to check the internet for validity or anything like that. And one of the things that's really helped me to go to this is ChatGPT and the other LLMs have gotten good enough to where I can take pictures of my cursive writing and have it transcribe it. And so one of the reasons I didn't like the handwrite is because getting it, then I'd have to go back and type it up and then clean it up. But now I can just take a photo of it, and then now I can tidy it up afterwards. Like I'm writing a full manifesto right now for Full Stack, and I'm not doing any research in the process. I'm not checking my thoughts on the process at all. I will after the fact. And so I notice that when I'm writing by hand, I'm really working out my thoughts, the value in it. Like I'm writing for me.
Like you're going deep. You're allowing yourself to go all the way in without having to go back, edit, check something on Google. What was that? You're trying to go in here, go all the way in, and let the flow state continue without being bothered by an email.
That's right. Or checking to see if I am right, or questioning myself instead of just going, this is what I know. This is what I know to be true. And so, and then AI is a great tool because now I can take a picture of it and I can do things I couldn't do before. I use it for strategy to take massive amounts of data and crunch it for me and help me make meaning of something that would, if I were to crunch it myself, would take days and it'll do in minutes. So I use it a lot with my clients. We use it in Full Stack. We create custom GPTs to help move people through processes. There's so many things that I can program a custom GPT to coach somebody through a specific process that would normally have to be done one-on-one in a coaching session that would take an hour and cost the client a lot of money. And now I can just hand it to them, and then we can get down to the deeper stuff on a call. And so it's really, I'm using it in a way that increases my intelligence. I say, I'm going to upload this document, and then I'm going to ask it to poke holes in it and challenge me. And that way I can then go back by hand and write again based on what it challenged me on and after it poked holes. So in that way, I'm using ChatGPT as a developmental tool for myself. I can also put in a lot of the writers who I've respected over the years. I download the PDFs of their books. I upload them to create a custom GPT, or I just upload it into a thread, a conversation. And then I can check what I'm saying against what, say, Ken Wilber was saying and or against these 5 different authors. Or I can ask ChatGPT, is like, look at what I wrote here. One of the fun little things I've done this past year is I will go and write, and then I'll upload what I wrote and ask, has anyone written about this before? what other authors are on the same track? Who would you compare this to? And then it lists the authors of these books. They go, oh, this actually reminds me of, I was proud of myself at one moment. It was like, oh, these 10 great thinkers, this seems like a synthesis of what they were saying. And I go, great. Half of them I had read, the other half I had not read. And I go, cool. So I'm going to go read these other ones now to get a better perspective on what it is that I'm grokking in this moment. So it can be really used as a tool. If someone's using it like that, I think it can really increase your own intelligence. But then on the other side, where is it going? We're looking at several black swan events in our future. The currency is, the inflation is insane. What they're reporting is incorrect. The trust in institutions, government, academia, scientific institutions, the trust is low. The conflict between countries is growing. AI is going to replace so many jobs. Robots are coming. We have no idea what the future looks like in 5 or 10 years. And so to me, it's really important to right now is to gain as much freedom over your time as possible. I was just podcasting with a friend, Mike Salemi, this morning.
Yeah.
And he was asking me, what's some advice you would give somebody, that's 10 years younger and wants to achieve, success or whatever. And the advice I gave him was start a business and get your work week under 20 hours a week. Have a business that can pay you at least $200K a year and get your work week under, and spend the rest of the time developing yourself, learning new skills, and then watching the landscape so that you can have a broad view of what's coming. Because if you're working 40, 50, 60 hour work weeks, you're going to be too busy to see yourself get replaced, and your ability to adapt and your agility is going to be really hindered. And so that's basically where I've gotten is the required amount of work of me in a given week, 20 hours, maybe less. This past year, I've probably worked 3-4 hours a day on average. And I spend the rest of the time looking at what's going on with AI, studying human development, working on myself to see where the holes are in my game. Because when things change, I'll be ready to adapt. And then also really developing my own nervous system to handle new information. New information comes in, things change, people experience fear and they freak out and they get tunnel vision. How do we be in a place with our own nervous system that as these changes are occurring, that we stay centered and can see all the options and possibilities available, where everyone else has got tunnel vision, only see one option available, and they go down a path that's not going to be good for them.
Yo, Marcos, that is probably the most mic drop advice that I think we've ever gotten on this podcast, honestly. Because it's so tactical, yet so realistic, right? Get to 200K, get your work week to 20, and then be working on yourself, your nervous system, your habits, routines, and be ready to go. That is probably such a North Star for me right now, Mark. I'm like, all right, now I know what's up,
And if you get a business to profit 200K a year, and you get your work week down to 20 hours, you're probably going to see a way to make it more than 200K profit.
Easily.
Because when you're developing yourself, you're automatically going to be seeing how you can leverage the business in a much greater way. So there's a guy named Dan Sullivan. He's a coach in the business world, old guy. And he has this concept called 10X thinking. Whereas if I tell you to double your business, then you're thinking in a linear fashion, and you're going to think I can double my work. I can double my, how much time I work. But if I say you got a 10X, then you go, shit.
Yeah.
I have to build new systems. I have to find new leverage. And I've used that a lot in my own considerations and strategy. But there you go. You got the book.
I haven't read it though. That's on the stack of it's been there, but I haven't read it. So this is the calling to read it.
But I think well, what made me think about that, I started really thinking about the concept of a 20-hour work week or a 10-hour work week, and it achieves it's a similar thing. I think the 10X thinking is for people who want to build large scale businesses. Yeah. But if you're looking for freedom, It's more about identifying that freedom number, 200K, 300K a year, whatever it is, and then saying how little time can I invest in this? And it's a similar concept, but it's kind of reverse in a way. And so instead of like, we're just going to limit your time. And so many of my clients, I've limited their work days to 4 hours a day, and they freaked out in the beginning, and over time they found it to be incredibly liberating, and then finding really great leverage in their businesses and it seems like that's like a concept that moves people from giving themselves a job to actually being an owner.
I see Marcos's head spinning like, I got some questions, bro.
No, I'm in the thick of it living this right now. So it's not even not in a bad way. So my wife, Mike, got a job. It's already quit after putting in a first 40-hour work week. She also does hair, and she realized I need to figure out how to make my fucking freedom matter more and get more asses in my seat, because she had a 40-hour work week after 7 years of not having one.
Yeah.
It took that realization for her to be like, let me go really figure out how to do this. But she couldn't hear it from me. She had to live that experience,
Yeah.
you know? And
wait, she already quit, Marcos?
As of today, 1 weekend.
Oh shit, dude, I thought I just talked to you the other day. She's like, oh yeah, she's just starting. I was like, what the fuck?
If I told you that was always part of my master plan, would you have believed me, Seamus?
No, bro, like it's fucking wild.
No, it really was. Like, I can't get across a certain message to my spouse because she's my spouse. She has to have livable experiences to also understand, what am I giving up in these moments? She missed our son's soccer tournament and my daughter's softball games because she had to go to work. Whereas before, that wasn't really ever even like something that she even thought about. And the emotions in the feeling and everything that happened as a result of that is now made her realize, how do I be more what Mike is describing? How do I make, that she's going to get a $600? No, she's going to get a $420 paycheck from 40 hours of work, because that's what it breaks down to after taxes. I was like, if you can't sit here and tell me, babe, that you can't get 2 asses in your seat in addition per week, then you need to go back and figure out how to make a 40-hour work week work. But I know that you could do it. But like, now she has that like gusto. She's like, oh, my 3:00 tomorrow canceled. And then a couple hours later, I got someone coming in. Like, I don't know how I had to get that point across. I had tried everything, but the number one thing that got her there was doing the exact opposite of what Mike's describing. She had to go backwards a step and regress so that she can then progress and start getting that 10x thinking in her. Because it happened to me, dude. I went through the same thing. I was like, she has to live the same fucking experience as me. Like, she has to experience that. That shit matters. You gotta be in the thick of it.
Yeah.
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 I think also, like, once you've done it, once you've figured out a way, like I've done it, right? I've
multiple times over, I feel like, right?
Yeah. Like when I started
like the dossier about you, I was like, we're missing a few things. Done this multiple times.
When I started dating my wife, she had never dated an entrepreneur before. We started seeing each other like 5.5 years ago, and it was years and years and I mean, still to this day, there's still like things she's wrapping her head around, and she has her own business now too, and she treated it like a job for a while and had to go through some of that, but now she works a lot less and has figured out how to, still profit decently and without working a lot. And so, but once you've been there, I don't think you can go back.
Mm-mm.
You're like, oh, I know that I can make $500,000 a year and working 20-hour work weeks. The idea of going back to 40-hour work weeks and making $200K a year, it's like, instead, it's like, I'm going to sit here and I'm going to figure it out instead of like, when I've been in between projects, like I literally just had no work to do several times since I left Barbell Shrugged, and just a lot of sitting and writing. And that it's really hard to find leverage when you're busy all the time. And if you're looking for leverage, you have to stop.
That's well said.
Dang.
I agree. And as we've done this, right, the little leverage and trying to build something and have good conversations and get more people that are, I mean, honestly, it's to get the wisdom from people from, a little over an hour. This has been exactly what I've been needing to hear. And it's cool. I feel like it's cool to have these repeat episodes with people, Seamus, because it's like, I feel like you're so much different than I remember 2 years ago.
I hope so.
In a positive way.
Yeah.
In a very good way, like uplifting, whereas like, I guess maybe finding more of the groove of like, yeah, maybe you were going back into things that were part of your sunken cost fallacy, but now you've kind of moved more to your purpose. And like it definitely kind of resonates in like your speech and how you're talking about things. And it's like a vastly, not that the first episode didn't have a lot of things that we took away from it either, but like just even more uplifting, and hopefully people can like, I mean, I would encourage them, go listen to the first one and come back to this one, you know, if you've already listened to this one all the way through, because you'll get what I mean here in a very positive light. So
And now I want to go listen to it. I'm going to go check it out.
I told our producer, I was like, I haven't listened to any of our episodes because it's weird to listen to yourself. I hate the sound of my voice. I think that's everybody. Seamus, have you ever listened to one of our episodes?
I'll be honest with you, maybe once, only just a little bit of it, because as soon as I kind of heard myself, I was like, God damn, like just listening to all the little things, I was like getting annoyed with myself.
Dude, going back and listening to yourself is great though. Yeah. I don't listen to all my shows. Well, when I was with Barbell Shrugged, we were first to the market in a lot of ways. We got away with a lot of things. Also had 2 co-hosts to carry things. And when I started the Full Stack podcast, we've got 14 episodes recorded now. And we had a lot in the can before we started posting. And then we posted them after we had maybe a dozen in the can. And I go, damn, I need to sharpen myself up. I could show up better to the show. And going, and I didn't listen to the entire episode, but I listened to enough of it to realize that I can be different on the show. And it really just requires that feedback of watching yourself. It's uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I watch it and go, oh, I could have been much more succinct. I could have been more clear. I could have thought that through better before presenting it. And this is where the writing comes in. Is before going into a show, I'm writing about what I'm gonna, I'm writing about what I want to get out of the show.
Yeah.
And so I've already processed a lot. So I'm not mapping during the show. I've already got the map. And during an interview, there's going to be some mapping happening in real time for sure. But a lot of the shows I've been doing has just been me and my co-host with no guests. So that's actually helped me sharpen up too. Is all right, we're going to cover this topic.
And it's such a different episode when it's like 2 in a setting with the topic and more of, like you said, the honed in approach to we want to get this message across versus the episode when it's like this, where we like the idea of it being more, let's see what's going to be on people's mind for that day, because it might be little nuggets of gold. Shoot, I mean, one of the funniest moments, maybe Bonnie's even listened to this episode now. One of my colleagues, Mike, she goes, one of the funniest things that Kelly Starrett said was like, and if you don't like it, then you can just, what he said, fuck, you can get fucked is what he said. And she was like, when he said that, I was chortling in the neighborhood and I was dying. I'm like, I remember that too.
You never know what you're gonna get, brother.
You never know what you're gonna get when you just get that, like, that moment of what people can passionately be talking about. So yeah. The speaking, and you have so many years of doing it too. It's probably like riding a bike, but then getting back into it, now you're just refining it and trying to sharpen that iron even more, which is, yeah, it's cool. I'm definitely not ready to listen to myself like that though, Seamus. Don't make it, do it, bro.
I won't. I'm super. I mean, I'm the one that's gonna help with some of the edits too with Rachel now, so I'll listen. But I'm super stoked, Mike. Like listening to you again. Like I kind of posted up right before this on Instagram, like how grateful I am because, dude, I was listening to when I was a freshman getting my exercise science degree, and these guys talking about CrossFit, and then you had that like one French coach that was like a super great like CrossFit French coach or something like this, and it was like, holy shit! And then trying out these methods in my training, and I was like, and then now to like see you again with like a new show, and like I'm like, all right, cool. I'm gonna go listen to some of these episodes that are gonna be great, and talking about working on yourself, consciousness. I mean, some of these things are. It may sound woo woo to some people, but it sounds like with Full Stack, you're like, no, we are making this predictive. There are skills, there are things you need to do. This is how you're gonna do it. So I'm super stoked. We are over an hour, Mike. Gosh, where did that hour go? By the way, holy shit. Marcos, I'll let you ask her, like,
I can't say that anymore though, because all the AI edits actually get rid of all the filler words and it goes under an hour, so people are going to think you're lying.
Okay, well, there you go. There you go. AI, damn it, helping us out. Marcos, why don't you ask another question and then maybe close it out for us here?
What's your number one goal in the next year?
I don't really have like a goal. There's I find that when I have goals, it's just not as much fun.
What would
I know where I'm going.
Yeah, like,
I know where I'm going.
What would make the next year feel as though your purpose and meaning is being fulfilled?
I already have that.
What would deepen it? would increase the perspective.
What would?
I'll tell you where we're going. Mastering YouTube
Okay.
and having at least 100,000 subscribers
In
and
1 year.
Yeah, we could do that in a year.
Damn.
And this is why I don't do like time frame too much. It's I like the idea of going, this is just what I'm doing. I'm welcome for it to come soon. I'm welcome, but this is what I'm having. I'm having 100,000. I'm having 1,000 people in my, by next year, probably 4,000 people in the full stack community. I've held a retreat where I meet up with full stack community in person. And yeah, it's, I have some other projects that I'm also involved with. I'm involved with some other companies. Got a project in peptides going on. There's a vision I have with that as well.
Do you have like a peptide company? Because I'll order from you.
Manufacturing will be, well, we're not going direct to consumer yet. We're going into clinics first. So
Pharmacy? Is it a pharmacy?
No,
Okay.
but it'll be compounded. We have a patented delivery system that'll put needles out of business.
That's gonna be the next episode. When is that dropping? That'll be part 3 with you then.
Yeah, it's not even worth talking about publicly right now because of the stage we're in. But there's some other side projects. So full stack is definitely the thing I'm most interested in developing. It's the thing that I've got going on. But there's also, I don't have a sense of urgency. The business doesn't have to do anything because I have multiple irons in the fire. And if I know that I'm going to continue to show up every week to provide the best curriculum, the best coaching, the best podcasting possible for full stack. But if, I don't need it to do anything for me.
That right there, I think, is
that
probably
right there is. That was kind of the answer I was looking for. Like,
yeah, dude.
How do you get to the point where you just don't have to worry about it because it can just be done?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And your identity's not tied to the success of that thing. You're still doing it no matter what, which is like probably like the biggest lesson today.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude,
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a skill. People need to become, step one is to become fluid in your identity and that you are able to show up in different contexts as a different thing. So I might show up in a context as a coach, podcaster, consultant, whatever husband, whatever it is I need to be showing up and I'll fulfill that identity in full. But then there's a point where none of those identities become important. I just show up as myself in every context. And I think that's the high level adaptability. So when things change quickly and if your identity is tied to your job and your job is no longer necessary, if your identity is tied to it, it's going to be depressing if it disappears. But if your identity is not tied to it and you can shift gears quickly because of that, then you're not going to experience any depression or anxiety around it.
Mic drop. Well, Mike, dude, brilliant as always. Thank you. For those that are listening, they can find Mike's community in school, full stack. There's some things already going on there. It sounds like you've got some great things going on. They can find you on Instagram, Mike Bledsoe, right? But other than that, guys, Macro Perspective Peeps, I think this is going on close to episode 200. We might be dropping, Marcos, maybe a live episode 200 thing or a celebratory thing. I don't know. We'll figure it out. 200 episodes and over 100 plus guests now by this time this episode comes out. So, yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate you, Macro Perspective Peeps. We out.